Bust a Groove, one of the first rhythm games ever made with a unique mixture of a fighting game element. It's not just a Dance Dance Revolution kind of game, but it's actually far from it, especially in terms of the gameplay mechanics. Although to be fair, there are some rhythm games out there that went on being unique, like Rhythm Heaven, Patapon, and even Crypt of the Necro Dancer. But Bust a Groove has its unique charm, especially for its time on the PS1. It's a game that's not like the others out there, including those arcade games in the past that I've played before. After replaying the game with every character, I'm confident enough to at least cover this game as a whole. This is K1PM. Today, I'll be doing a full review of Bust a Groove. I'll be talking more in depth about the game and pointing out the pros and the cons of it.
Shorty versus Let's see some sexy moves now. All the people everywhere, everybody wants.
Bust a Groove was developed by Metro Graphics, a Japanese game company that I actually never heard of before. As far as I've researched about them, the games they made are, well, let's say it wasn't as good as this one. While the publishers in turn are split among 5 different ones. It all depends on which region or platform you bought it. It's either Enix, 989 Studio, Sony Computer Entertainment, Atlus or Namco on the arcade versions. Bust a Groove is a game that I love, but at the same time, it's not that easy to play. I could hardly even win a single match before as a kid, considering it has a very unconventional rhythm game mechanic that's really hard to get used to. It took me a lot of retries and a bunch of practice mode just to get better. This isn't the same as your average rhythm game, where you time the press based from the difficulty and rhythm of the music, like the ones in these kinds of rhythm games, for example, Dance Dance Revolution, Project Diva, or known as Vocaloid by many, Citus, Elite Beat Agents, or one of DJ Max's series on the older console, and also their arcade games in the past. This game follows a set of different mechanics, where both of the players or enemy AI follows a 4x4 beat. Every 4th beat of a song should be pressed with either X or circle button, depending on which route you choose over here. There's no visual cues that would help out the player, other than the flashing commands and musical beat would be the only hints, while following a set of input directions over here, as soon as you can or at your own pace, before the 4th beat of a song goes in, that is. It might sound simple at the start, but it's actually quite hard to get used to. As a person who've played a lot of different rhythm games in the past, this one is a complete new experience. As a mixture of both rhythm and a fighting game, this game offers a total of 14 available characters, 10 playable characters at the start, and 4 hidden unlockable ones, a decent amount I'd say. Each character has their own stages and their own theme. Depending on who your opponent is, the song would be based on their theme. Unless if you're planning on playing in 2-player mode, of course that's a different story. At least you could still pick a specific stage with 2 different characters in it. It's not the traditional kind of picking a song and choosing a difficulty for it. The only challenging part here is the enemy AI's difficulty and the different BPM or beat per minute on each song. Now, I know what you might be thinking at this point. Where the heck is the fighting game elements? For some people, they end up thinking that the fighting game element is only based on the versus kind. But it's not actually just that. There's actually 3 things that could be considered: the character story ending, the activatable attacks, and the command movesets of a character. Each of the character has their very own ending, except for these 3 unlockable ones, which is pretty much alright I guess. I mean, they are secret characters and all. But story-wise, it's kinda okay I guess. I mean, this is the age of older fighting games after all. It's not like every fighting game has a decent ending before. Only a few selected ones are considered alright for its time. Now when it comes to the attacks, this could mess up your opponent on the other end. Just with the press of square button at the 4th beat of a song, then the opponent is given a chance to dodge it with a triangle button on the next 4th beat. The only hints when you know it's coming are the animation of the enemy, the sound cues, and the sudden shift of the camera angle towards the center. Although this move is a bit limited, with only 2 available times to pull off. The best way to utilize this is when using it on the right moment, where the opponent's combo meter reaches at an alarming rate, like from combo 5, cool, chillin', before it reaches to freeze. Now the command movesets can be a bit sketchy. I love how the mechanics for this rhythm game can be unique, with each character having their own set of styles on the animation, while following a set of commands in the middle of the screen. The top portion is always much easier to pull off, having shorter inputs but gives out a much lower score, while the bottom part is a bit harder but the score it gives out is much higher. Although there's some major problem that I notice. Every movesets are exactly the same as the other characters. There's no difference other than the animation they've done. The only difference are during in its solo section for each song. However, that's just it. It doesn't make a huge difference just on that. It's kind of a letdown knowing this kind of way. And since the bottom part gives out a higher score, I end up doing the same repetitive pattern for every character. It ends up being too repetitive at a certain point, unfortunately. Just imagine repeating the same exact pattern on the movesets for every song in the game. And yeah, that's where it kind of falls apart on the long run. Even though there's the secret moves that you could pull off, but it still doesn't change that much, honestly. I don't even have to know those secret moves just to win in every character on the game. If you're wondering how the scores is measured in every single match, it's actually based on where the camera is focused on. At first, I thought this was a problem or a glitch of some sort. It's kinda a bit annoying how this angle is shown without being able to see my opponent. But that's just actually how they show it, which it's okay I guess. But at certain times, it just feels annoying. The meters down here below act as a combo gauge or something like it. It doesn't show the score itself, but somewhat kind of like it I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kinda really useless to be honest. I'm not even sure why they added this. On the practice mode of the game, however, I kinda have mixed feelings to it. As you start the practice mode and select a character in the game, you gotta select a level of difficulty. This helps guide the player on which movesets to do, while giving out a visual cue this time. And this practice mode actually helped me quite a lot. I end up getting good at the game because of this part. But again, it's kinda a bit too simple how they've done this. I kinda wish that the game offers a sort of command list that shows which moves gives out a better set of combo, or even the secret moves to be pulled off. Although it still helped me out to be honest, so there's that. And if you're that confident, you could set up the difficulty to hard and disable the command list fully. As for me, I think I'll pass on this one. I'm not used to this kind of thing for this game. Putting aside the negative stuffs, when it comes to the music or songs however, it's absolutely great. The variety of catchy songs fits amazingly with the character and the theme of the stage. From Heat's upbeat rhythm while in a fiery stage, Kitty N's agent-like theme in a flashy room, to the final boss theme of Robo Z in the middle of the city. Personally, I'm much more of a fan on instrumentals when it comes to video game soundtracks, like these ones for example. But this game has some variety of great songs into it. Although you could argue that it's not that many compared to the other rhythm games out there, and that's quite true. With only 12 available songs in the game, acting as a theme for each character, there's not a lot to choose unfortunately. And to be fair, these are one of the first rhythm games after all. It's kinda like laying the foundation before it all developed in a much better stage. It's kinda like what happened with the first Guilty Gear game. It has a lot of problems in between before it ends up getting polished on their next game. Aside from that, I did appreciate this option section, where I could listen to the different versions of the song in the game, offering a version of both vocals and instrumental versions. The art and graphics in the game is pretty good for the PS1. Each of the character has its distinct look, despite some of the character are kinda bit sketchy, with all the whole stereotypes what Japan did after all. But what I'm interested out of all is the animation or movement itself. A lot of the movements I've seen for each character has their own unique touch, and even the styles they perform. Whether it'll be disco, vogue, East Coast hip-hop breakdance, or the other ones in there. Although to be honest, I'm not exactly a fan of dance choreography, But the moves in the game is absolutely amazing. I intentionally don't even hit the enemy, while I try to explore the other movesets of each character, just to enjoy the whole thing. And if I wanted more from it, I could actually just go to this section of the game to try and experiment the kind of moves I could pair up with. Although you gotta still finish a character that you wanted to use here just to unlock it. It's kinda a bit of a bummer. I'm sure they must have used motion capture for the animation. It's still good how the movements are pulled off. As well as the background for each stage looks great in a game. Not only does it constantly changes depending on the rhythm of the song, but some of them actually changes depending on the player's score. For a mixture of a fighting game, the background is one of the great ones I've seen in a mixture of a fighting game. That's why I give this game a rating of 8 out of 10. Bust the Groove is one of the classics of rhythm games, but have been forgotten by many despite its huge popularity before. Not only was this one of the first rhythm games ever made, but they actually made a unique system that's quite good despite its difficulty and limited songs. But the quality of each song is really top-notch, offering a variety of amazing songs available for the player to enjoy. The only downside to this is the amount of songs is a bit too short, and when playing the game over time, the game ends up being a bit too repetitive at a certain point. But as it is one of the first rhythm games ever made, it's quite alright for me. As well as the command movements itself can be a bit too linear in a way. They could have added a bit more variety into it, other than focusing only on the bottom part of these moves just to get a higher score. Now, would I recommend you on playing the game? If you're a fan for these kinds of unique game mechanics to try out, sure. But I should warn you that it might burn you off easily, especially if you're not used to playing rhythm games. Not to mention the price of the game is absurdly too high. You gotta spend that much, or just wait for a port of it one day. Hopefully there is one though. If you're still skeptical about it, you could try watching on my full playthrough video of it down on the description below. Hopefully you might enjoy it. For more videos such as these, why not head down to my channel to check things out? I do accurate game reviews of the past games and some other new ones too. If you want to support my channel, a subscribe would be really nice. It kinda helps me out morally, to be honest. This is K1PM, and I bid you farewell.